It's time for the most controversial video. What I'm going to tell you is manipulation of circumstance for the purpose of your partner caring more about you. The controversy is that some people think manipulation is bad, while I think manipulation is a tool. The so-called bona fide lie has been described in literature many times, so I will quote, "If with the truth you have to kill a man, then lie." Of course, manipulation is associated with something negative because it is used most often by fraudsters. The manipulation I'm describing in this video is an action to make your partner start to care about you much more than before. So basically, if your partner had this power, he would say that he wants to do everything to feel all those wonderful feelings of love and falling in love again, to be happy with a partner, so that he wouldn't have to think about whether he wants or doesn't want to be with you. So that he doesn't have to go through all those hard breakups and hard times in his life and continue to make a life with a partner. So basically, by manipulating your partner in this way, for such a noble purpose, you are just doing him a favor. However, this is perceived differently by different people, so if you don't want to use these particular strategies, then by all means feel free to do so. Doing all the other things will still give you a very high potential to improve your relationship, and matching it with a few more of these tips I'm about to talk about may just accelerate this effect further. What is this manipulation? First of all, by showing your partner an active lack of interest. That is, once in a while, if things are really bad between you, showing lack of interest will let your partner know that something is wrong, that you are no longer as interested as you were before. What does this active showing of lack of interest consist of? It involves showing him through your active actions that you no longer care about him as much. A perfect example is all kinds of forgetting what you were supposed to do for your partner. Even promising him that you would do something, call, write, meet with him, get back to him in any other form, but yet you don't do it. Normally, if you were exemplary in a happy relationship, perhaps this would even work negatively. And in a healthy relationship, such actions definitely do not make the slightest sense. So, going already to concrete examples, you can, for example, during a phone call, say to your partner, "You know what? I'm sorry for you. I have to go now." You give some justification and end with the words, "I'll call you in the evening," but you don't call back at all. So, in fact, as the evening approaches, your partner has this thought in his head that you should call, but you don't. The partner notices that you have shown him a lack of interest and have forgotten about him. If you were in love, you would care about him all the time, and you most likely would not do so. Up to now, something like this has not happened to you, and here suddenly there is a change. Of course, later you should apologize for it, but still, the impression is already there. Another trick is not to write back deliberately to messages until the end of the day, and only write back the next day. In the next conversation, you apologize for forgetting to write back. You deliberately use the word forgot. This shows that you don't sit and think about your partner all day, you just might have some more important things going on, and you might have actually forgotten. Likewise, not answering the phone and not calling back, where your partner clearly may feel ignored in some way. Also canceling a meeting when you had an appointment. Your partner knows you're going to see each other, but you, without giving some super important reason, simply cancel the meeting. You apologize for it, of course, but still assertively say you feel bad. "I'm very tired. Maybe let's postpone this meeting to another date," which shows that if you cared a lot about your partner, you certainly wouldn't do that. Of course, here it is worth distinguishing the reason why you cancel such a meeting. Because if you tell your partner, "Listen, I got hit by a car and I'm lying in the hospital," then even if you were madly in love with him to the max, you wouldn't have come to the meeting anyway, because something else happened. So if something is beyond your control, and because of that you cancel the meeting, it's not a lack of interest. It's something like, "I'm tired. I don't have time today. I have some of my other things left to do, and I won't make it." It is important that these are such ordinary things, not extremes. Then you show lack of interest. This is the active lack of interest. Another such active show of lack of interest is ending a meeting much earlier than usual. You end a phone call, even when you two are having a very good conversation after a relatively short period of time, so that your partner also evidently feels that you are the one to end it. You are the one who returns to your life, that there is something going on at your place besides talking to him, and he may also feel this lack of interest, especially if such situations did not happen before. Suddenly he sees that there is a change. In general, it's also worth paying attention to who of you ends phone calls more often, whether you or your partner. If it's your partner who has always ended these calls more often, make sure to change that. Most likely this means that he doesn't want to talk to you that much and prefers to end these conversations earlier. See to it that you yourself sometimes end these conversations when you haven't fully talked yet. There must remain a certain unsatisfactoriness, because then this active lack of interest will work even better. The same situation applies to writing with each other, both regular messages and chatting on various instant messengers. Pay attention to whether it is not the case that it is your partner who always ends up writing messages first. If this is the case, then cutting off the discussion in this way will make you more of a challenge and thus repair that broken balance of feelings. When you show a lack of interest in your partner, the side effect can be a certain hostility, a certain resentment, nervousness, frustration that is born in your partner. Therefore, it is very important that whenever you show lack of interest, you should be very nice, polite, apologize for forgetting that you didn't do something. That is, the more lack of interest you show, the nicer and more polite you should be, because this will create less of that hostility on your partner's part. On the other hand, if you do it so in an oleaginous that you simply, I don't want to, and you don't explain yourself, you are so very cool about it all, and on top of that you show a lack of interest, then you run the risk that this hostility will be a lot. Don't talk in such a negative way. I don't want to meet. I don't want to talk. Okay, I have to go. It's much more important what you do, not what you say. You can tell your partner, I love you, but at the same time you don't have time to meet with him, and he will still feel that you are withdrawn. So even if you are super nice, polite, and terribly apologetic, but yet you totally don't want to move from the house because you are super tired, it will still be a lack of interest. Your partner will just perceive it that way, but by you apologizing, being nice, being able to explain yourself, the chance that this hostility will arise will just be a lot less. In such situations, such a paradox of our human nature is exposed, that the person who upsets us, we like even more. Surely you have experienced this more than once in your life. This is most pronounced when you start dating someone new. When you start to like some new person, you arrange to meet and suddenly you get such a lack of interest. Totally cold behavior, without any explanation. You are already prepared, excited before the meeting, and at the same time, suddenly this person refuses you such a meeting. Such a huge hostility can be born in such a situation. Annoyance on the principle, how dare you? If you don't want to meet, then we won't have to meet at all. Even if you don't say something like this, such thoughts may appear in your head. When someone shows you a lack of interest, in addition to such nervousness that you are not getting what you want, there is also usually such an urge to still meet with this person, to still make an appointment at some other time. There is such a feeling that I am losing something. If you do not have any feelings for this person at all, this effect may not occur. If you have already emotionally started to care about this person, then as a rule, you care even more, even if you got such a negative message. The exact same thing will happen with your partner. He may not like it very much. He may be annoyed that you don't answer, don't write back, that you forgot, and there may be some superficial aggression there. At the same time, it will also attract him to you and show that something is happening that was not happening before and that there has been some change. Your partner may have a feeling that if he does not take some kind of action immediately, he may even lose you forever. It may also happen that despite the fact that you are super nice, polite, and apologetic about not being able to do something, but you are assertive and actually refuse to meet, in this situation your partner will try to punish you in some way with his lack of interest. This is often the case, especially in the beginning, when you start to become more challenging, and your partner feels that he is losing control and trying to manipulate you and punish you in some way. Then it is very important not to break your resolve and not to be at arm's length again, however, because that will kill your attraction. Suppose a man who was previously totally withdrawn proposes at the last minute to meet his girlfriend somewhere for the evening and hears, "Not today. She's already tired and I'm reading a book. I'm sorry for you, but some other time it's very welcome." The girl shows a lack of interest, and the boy feels that he doesn't have what he wanted. He may get upset and start trying to manipulate in style. "Okay, if you don't want to, then we don't have to meet at all. Then I'll think about whether this relationship even makes sense." This approach to creating fear in the boyfriend is not going to inspire what he wants, so he tries to punish the girl with the approach, "You have to do what I want." It is very important not to be intimidated, but to be consistent in all this, to mitigate hostility as much as possible, and at the same time not to be at arm's length. That is, in this case, do not go on the call, do not give in to this blackmail, because then you will show that in practice you care much more about this relationship than your partner. Stick to your frame of challenge and don't succumb to this blackmail, which can arise in situations like this, when your partner feels he is losing control of it all. You being kind, polite, show that you understand, appreciate, but yet still have your own agenda. Show that you won't change your decision anyway, because it will make you much more attractive. Stick to this advice, as it often happens, because your intuition tells you that your partner is not bluffing and will really break up with you. Sometimes you may actually hear a threat. If you don't come, I will break up with you. Well, that's all the more reason why you should say, look, if whether we're together is dependent on whether I come now, then I don't need this kind of relationship, and we can basically say goodbye right away. This will affect your partner much more strongly emotionally and will make him feel that he is losing you and is no longer in control of everything. So keep this tip in mind and be firm. I know this can be a very difficult time for you. Rational thinking, instead of acting under the influence of emotions and prompts of intuition, which most often in such situations unfortunately tells us wrong, is the only right way out, and the only thing that can save your relationship in such a crisis situation. It is very important to give your partner time and not to do anything by force. Don't show all this lack of interest in one day, just gradually move more and more away from your partner and live your life more and more. This will give him such impulses that something is going on here, that he is no longer so overwhelmed by this presence of yours. When he feels that you are not close, he will start to come up with some initiative himself. Nevertheless, all the time you must remember that you do not always have to take this initiative. In this situation, a very big ally of yours is time. You will stop making mistakes and start living your life by showing that something is happening in you. Once in a while you will return to this lack of interest, so as to give a real boost to your partner to act. If you are nice and polite all the time at the same time, then sooner or later something has to start changing. On the one hand, give yourself time. Be patient. Don't demand that things will immediately change overnight. On the other hand, observe what's going on, and if there are no results, then you'll need to take some additional action. Consider whether I'm accidentally doing something wrong, whether all the pieces of the puzzle are there, whether perhaps something is missing. Sometimes it can be that you do almost everything right, but you do one thing that spoils the whole effect and shows your partner that you actually care about him all the time. He can even see that you're faking it all, it's not sincere, it's not consistent, and it can totally ruin your whole attraction. So, in order for all this to work as it should, you really have to be happy with the implementation of these strategies, and you have to feel it with your whole self. If something doesn't work, well, you will have to change it immediately. So, watch your partner and see if you are moving in the right direction. Give yourself at least 2 weeks. After such a time, you should already see some change in your partner, and there should be a little more interest on his part. If there is absolutely no change after that time, it means something is wrong. Think about whether everything you are doing and if you are doing right. If you are not sure about some technique, then it may be worth consulting us for a consult. There may also be a situation where a third person has appeared in your partner's life, and he is now getting involved to the max in some new acquaintance. This is the only moment where such strategies may not quite work, although they should still improve the situation a little. So, in practice, watch what happens. If there is indeed a third party there, you may have to end the relationship. This may be the strongest impulse to make your partner aware of and that he pays attention. Start to care about you and end that relationship. I will talk a little more about this in the next section. On the other hand, if things are already moving forward and you see progress, keep using these methods. Just control how much interest and lack of interest you show to your partner. Don't reveal yourself and don't open up to your partner too quickly. Even if things are already much better, don't immediately go back to the old strategies where you are the one pulling the conversations, wanting to spend time together, constantly hugging and hanging on your partner. Just let him get a little more involved and let him stay in that uncertainty for a while. Let him start thinking, are you sure you still want to be with him? Are you sure you still feel something for him? It is this uncertainty that will strengthen his feelings for you. It is this anxiety about whether he will accidentally lose you that will have a very positive effect on his emotions, and the longer he stays in it, the better for his feelings. Only when you see that another week passes and everything is okay, then gradually you can return to your old behavior and talk more and more about your feelings. The ideal strategy is to follow your partner, i.e., adjusting to how much interest he gives you, but with some delay. If he starts telling you that he loves you, respond the same way, but after 2 weeks at the earliest. If he starts proposing some outings on his own, you can agree, but propose something like that yourself after 2 weeks at the earliest. This is more or less how the process works. Meanwhile, here also the basis in all this is that you should be consistent in everything all the time. It may happen to you that you are consistent, everything is going well, and suddenly you can't stand it and make some mistake. For example, you'll show too much jealousy, resent your lack of time, get offended by your partner's refusal to meet you, or in some other way get offended by your partner's lack of interest. Then it's worth aborting such a situation. That is, apologize for it and blame it on some other factors. Sorry, I was in a worse mood yesterday. Don't worry at all about what I said. I myself do not know what came to my mind. After all, you have the right to go out there with your friends. I feel stupid for behaving like that. That is to say, you apologize, interrupt it, by showing that in principle nothing happened, and thus it will somewhat alleviate the tension that may have arisen. And then, of course, you continue to act with this plan, and with this move away a little bit from your partner. There is always anxiety in people at the beginning and thoughts like this. If I stop trying, then my partner won't try at all anymore and this relationship will just fall apart on its own. In life, it's exactly the opposite. If you don't stop trying, then your relationship is bound to fall apart because a broken balance of feelings inevitably leads to the breakdown of the relationship. On the other hand, the only way out of such a situation is precisely that you will stop trying and stop making mistakes. You will start to gradually move away, giving more space to your partner, so that he can start following you. If you are around him all the time, then your partner has no room to move. He will only move further and further away because he is sick of it. Simply put, in order to be able to commit, he needs to feel that space. He needs to see that you have a life, that you are attractive on your own. You need to show that you are perfectly fine without him, because without that, your attractiveness will simply be very low, and it will be difficult for him to get involved. It is as feasible as possible to awaken those old feelings that your partner once had for you. You need to help your partner with this by showing that you are a strong, independent individual who can do perfectly well without him, and you are happy with yourself. This is the kind of attitude you need to present to your partner through a whole series of actions that I discussed in earlier recordings. The second common objection is precisely that this whole strategy is such one big manipulation, and that it is immoral. Of course, all these strategies and actions should not take place when this crisis between you is not there, because it could be very harmful then. That's why I compare it to taking an X-ray. If you are healthy, then taking an X-ray is absolutely pointless. You can harm yourself very seriously, and if you take X-rays every day. On the other hand, if you have an accident, taking an X-ray can save your life. Exactly the same is true of all the activities I suggest to you, which are normally unacceptable. If you go about your daily life wondering if you are showing too much interest, it won't work out for you. On the other hand, if you apply these strategies when it's very bad, when your relationship is close to breaking up, it may be the only thing that saves you from breaking up. So that's my answer to your doubts. The other answer is that these strategies are really effective. All of these strategies I have given you really do work, of that I do not have the slightest doubt. Of course, I leave the moral issues to you. I invite you to the next section. If you liked the material, leave a like and send it to a friend or someone close to you who may benefit from this knowledge. If you want to support our work and help us create more valuable videos, there is a link in the description.